And I remember looking for my family afterwards in the stands, but the whole town was there. All 800 people in Weeping Water were in the stands,
Oh my God.
and it was insane. It was insane.
Today on the sideline, I'm talking with the University of Nebraska at Omaha standout women's basketball player. Grace Cave is up next. Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Adams, and this is where we dive deep into the world of sports, talking with athletes, retired, current, and everyone that makes the sports world great. A quick reminder, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, make a note, subscribe to the show. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Audible, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about the show, you can visit our website at 5thquarterpodcast.com. Now, grab your iced tea or your coffee. Get ready to be motivated and inspired because this is where the real stories are told. Today's guest on the sideline, Grace Cave. Earlier this month, she capped off her collegiate basketball career with a standout performance, dropping 20 points in her final game for the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Her 11th 20-plus point game of the season. She leaves Omaha as one of the program's all-time greats, finishing with 1,336 career points, ranking 12th in the school history and second in the school's D1 era. Her impact goes way beyond scoring, dishing out 336 career assists during her time at Omaha, seventh all-time and the most in Omaha's D1 history. No player in Mavericks history has matched her combination of points and assists. I couldn't be more excited to welcome to the show Grace Cave. Grace, thank you for being here.
Hey, that was a heck of an intro. That was crazy.
Hey, I like to give flowers where they're due, okay? I
Thank you.
absolutely like to do that. I always like to start off the show telling people how I know my guests because typically, there have been a few where I did know them ahead of time. I just reached out and then got to know them. But I also like to tell people how I find them and that kind of thing. But you are a friend of the family. My niece Lindsay, I won't go into all that, but a friend of the family. Lindsay, my niece, has been after me to have you on the show. My brother has been after me to have you on the show. He lives in Omaha. It's a beautiful city. If all of you have not visited Omaha, Nebraska, please do so. It's a beautiful city. Spent many times there in the summer and winter, unfortunately. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to say you just wrapped up your collegiate career. You're a senior. Has that reality set in? Because last week was the last game, correct? March 6th?
Correct. Yeah. So I don't know if it's really set in yet. I've only had a week of retirement, so I've been just kind of hanging out a little bit. Like I said, I'm just
And
hanging.
you're still in school, so it's kind of got
Yeah.
to be, it's not really any different.
Not really, because we would usually, if I wasn't a senior, then we would have like a month or so off before we
Mm.
started workouts back up again. So I'm kind of taking the time, and then I'll start working out once they go back, just so I'm on my timeline that I've been on the past 4 years.
Sure. And for those out there, you guys are in the Summit League, and you unfortunately did lose in the Summit League.
Yeah.
You did the play in, and I feel like a sportscaster today because normally I am not, but you guys beat the University of Denver.
Yes.
And I just want to read this because I'm pretty impressed myself. Okay. The University of Denver, you guys only had like 7 players available to play because of sickness, injuries.
Yeah, the second time we played them at
This
home.
the second time, which
Yeah.
was February something.
Yes, something. Yeah.
Okay. And you played. So in the last minute, you did a bunch of things. You scored 2 3-pointers to take it into overtime.
Yep.
You guys won. You played all 45 minutes
I did.
and
I
scored 25 points.
I did. And
You were sick.
I had the flu.
You
Yes.
had the flu.
Yes.
Like, I was
Crazy.
impressed.
It was crazy because we only had 7. I wasn't at shoot around or practice that like the previous day. I was like, Coach Banks, I'm not feeling well. I need to go get some medicine.
Oh,
And she's like, okay, well, let me know how you're feeling tomorrow for the game. I was like, okay. So I wake up and I'm like, this is it's senior day. I was like, I have to play. I have to. And then I ended up playing the whole game. And then I went home, slept for 3 days. I was good to go.
I think that's crazy. But the other thing was that was probably your 7th 20-plus game of the season.
Something like that. I think in my last 10, I averaged 24 or something like that.
That's crazy. That is crazy. So that kind of brings us back to, let's start at the very beginning. Like, do you remember the first time you held a basketball?
I have some recollection of it, yes. I was in kindergarten, and
Oh,
my cousin Jake, shout out Jake, he was in high school, and they would always have, like, shoot around before school, so I'd go to breakfast, and I'd go watch them just, like, shoot in the gym, and he was like, "Well, hey, come shoot," and I'm like, "Okay." Like, me as a five-year-old, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna hang out with the big boys," and then ever since then, it's just been it's for me, it's always has been. I've always loved,
right.
playing with older people, people who are better than me. So I feel like that was kind of the initial spark.
Did you ever have any interest in any other sport? Like, did you try any other sports?
Yeah, so I played, oh boy, almost everything. So I grew up and I played obviously basketball. I played
Right.
football, I wrestled, softball, volleyball, track,
Wow.
everything. So I've been around the block and I knew which one was for me.
So when did you decide, like, this is it? I'm not going to play anything else?
So my mom and my dad, I'll never forget. I was also in dance at this time when I think I was in like 3rd grade. And at this point, my coach at the time, Jay, who was really good family friends with my dad, he's like, "Hey, like she could be pretty good."
Yeah.
And so my parents are like, "Okay, well, she's in dance, she's in this, she's in that. We need to be able to focus on one." And
Right.
my parents brought me and they're like, "Okay, you need to pick basketball or dance. We'll put you in
In
select."
third grade.
3rd grade, we'll put you in select, but you gotta pick one. So I'm like, "Okay, this is like a life-changing decision. I need to go think about it in my room." I walk in to my room
In third grade. Can I
in
just
3rd
point that
grade,
out? Yeah.
I'm all up here. I see my little mini basketball hoop on my door, and I'm
Aw.
like I walk right back out, basketball. And then the rest is history.
Has there been a point where, and I'll get into that later, but I'm curious right now, has there been a point where you questioned what you were doing?
Not really. No, I feel like ever since I was in kindergarten and, just
Yeah.
for as long as I can remember, it's always been basketball. That's what I'm known for, and I
Right.
feel like that's a huge part of my identity and how I,
Right.
grew up or whatever. So, no, I would say no.
Okay, so that brings up a good question. So my podcast, typically my guests talk about their fifth quarter when they've retired from sport, whatever that is, from competitive competition, and how they like translate into a different career.
Yeah.
But I also developed a sub series called On the Sideline because I wanted to talk to current athletes like yourself, and people that are in the sports world in general, because I just think that has a more well rounded approach to everything. And everybody has a career story, everybody has a career journey, resilience, whatever that is. But my question then is, if you take basketball away from you, how would you describe who you are? Forget the basketball portion. How would you describe who you are? And the reason I ask that is because so many of the athletes had such a hard time getting into their fifth quarter because they didn't know who they were outside their sport. But I
Like,
also think, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
so you're
I also think, if you go back and listen to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, you have to have that passion and go all in on one thing. However, there's going to come a point when that career ends. And to be, I think, sane in some aspects, you have to have something else. So, who are you outside of basketball?
if you haven't noticed already, one thing about me, I'm an extrovert. I love talking to people.
Oh,
So
thank God.
that is me. Like that is literally I could go talk to anybody about anything. Like that is who I am as a
Right,
person. I just have always been across the board with my friends or whatever. Um, so that's me. My major in college is communication because I just love talking to people. Um, for going back, so my 5th quarter, I am still kind of figuring that out.
right,
It's only been a week.
right.
Um, I do, and I think we're gonna talk about it later, kind of like
Yes,
what's next for me, so I'm not
right,
gonna get too much into it. But if I did have to take basketball away for like from my life playing wise, there's no way that I could just drop it and never look at it
right,
ever again. I really want to get into coaching sometime down the road.
right, right.
Um, but if basketball was never invented and I was just another athlete, I would probably have to play another sport or something.
Yeah. You know,
Pickleball. Have you ever
I
played
d
pickleball?
what now?
Have you played pickleball?
No, I have not.
Gotta try it. I think that would be my backup.
Really? It's such a weird name, pickleball.
Pickleball.
I
It,
mean, it's like I'm like, do you I mean, I know what it is, but I'm like when I first heard it, I'm like, does it like why is it called a pickle? Like I don't get that. Um
that's fair. Why is it
Yeah.
called pickleball?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I'm a huge basketball fan in case Lindsay didn't tell you. I've never played. I wasn't allowed, oh, I wouldn't say I wasn't allowed to play sports, but when I was really young, we didn't have a lot of sports out in the country. I think we had softball and tennis. Um, but my mom wasn't an athlete or anything, and I just didn't do that. My brother was allowed to play. I know, guys, I'm digressing. My brother was allowed to play football. He got hurt like the first week, and my mom was like, "No, you're done."
yeah.
And so he did band. I did band. Okay, we're digressing there. Okay, that doesn't
Okay.
matter. I just I love the whole story about athletes and about their transition, and it's so relevant to anyone whether you've played sports or not. It's just like any other job, you eventually have to transition, and we will talk about if you are really going into your fifth quarter or not. We'll get into that in a second. But when you were a little girl, you grew up in Weeping Water, Nebraska, and I think that is like the best name ever. It's just like so Nebraska, right? It's just such
Very,
a
very.
great name. Who was the first person, and I think you may have talked about this, who was the first person that really believed in you as an athlete?
That's kind of a tough one because I
Yeah.
can't not say my parents
Well,
because
sure.
they made the decision for me to, hey, she had,
Right.
she could be good. So,
Right.
and then
Well, let's take them out of the equation because they're your parents, right?
I'm
Okay.
going, I'm gonna say, shout out Mr. J Toomey. He was my first ever basketball coach, and he's the one that was like, hey, you could be pretty good. So I'm gonna shout out Jay, and he actually was my coach from third grade till sixth grade, and then he came back and was the assistant all throughout high school
Oh, that's
for,
really
for my
cool.
class. Yeah, so full circle moment.
Let's fast forward to your getting into high school, and you went to high school at Weeping Water High School as well. What was that period like? So when you became a freshman, did you have any career goals? Like, did you even think about life after high school at that moment?
I did. I would say kind of like a little flash forward moment. Seventh grade was when I got my first like college phone call. So I would say,
Really?
yeah, yeah, and like my first letters or whatever for recruitment. So I would,
That is crazy. They're recruiting a seventh grader.
oh, that they start early, early. I went
Oh
on my
my.
first college visit my freshman year.
Okay, so in seventh grade, who were the schools reaching out to you?
So Providence, Rhode Island was the first school that I ever talked to. And so I
Yeah.
told my mom, I'm like, Mom, like I'm so nervous. I
Okay,
can call this coach.
so that brings up a question. How did people in Providence, Rhode Island know about the seventh grader in Weeping Water, Nebraska, which is out in the middle of nowhere, is it not?
Literally middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So when you play select, you travel all across the country. So they saw me at like a summer tournament and then
Okay, so talking about select, that's AAU, correct?
yes, yes.
So when did you start playing AAU?
I think fourth grade,
Wow.
early.
There's a debate, and I don't know if it's obviously going to be different depending on what city state you're in, and I say that because like here I think there's a lot of politics involved in the AAU circuit. Um, and just in the area in general, no matter what you do, whether you're a child, high school, college, an adult, whatever that job is, and I'm doing air quotes if you're listening, you have to be seen.
Yeah.
You have to be seen. And so shout out to that. And did you want to play the AAU, or did your parents say you need to play AAU?
I wanted to play.
And why did you want to play AAU?
So you only for basketball, for those of you who don't know,
Yes.
hopefully you do know, but it's a long season, but it's only in the winter. So if
The
I want to
AAU
no,
or the
just high
school.
school or school
Okay.
ball is
Right.
only during basketball season, which is in the winter. I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do in the summers?
Good
Just,
point.
you know, shoot hoops outside like I always do. So I
Right.
think being able to one, play year round, but then again, also play with different people.
Right.
who were better than me, people who, have so much diversity coming from Omaha, from Lincoln. I'm from a small
Right.
town. Like, I think the diversity and then just, being experienced playing with people who were better than me,
Mhm.
or at the same level as me was something that I really was eager to learn from.
We had back to the women's coaching staff, one of the players on there, she talked about how when she was in high school, they didn't really use weights back then. They didn't really like start build. And I've seen your pictures. Your arms are like crazy defined, okay?
Thank you.
But it made me remember her story because she talked about how the first experience she had with weights was in college,
Oh, wow.
and that she used to go and play like pickup ball with the men's team. And a couple of the other female basketball players that have been in here have talked about how they needed to go play with the men because they needed to be able to get used to being hit, get, and not in a bad way, but getting used to that physicality and also playing up. You want to play up if you want to get better.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
I think if you're the best person on the court, you don't truly have any competition.
that's very, very true. It's very
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we at Weeping Water, you start lifting 7th grade.
Hmm.
So 7th
But
grade, I
but
started
but you're
lifting.
also a younger player. You're also a younger player, and I think that because you're 21,
Yep.
I would say that depending on the schools, I don't think that a lot of girls' teams necessarily lift weight. There may not be a lot that lift weight now. They just don't see the point in it.
Yeah.
So you were getting recruited. Providence, Rhode Island was the first one when you were in seventh grade. So in as your freshman year, you said you went on your first college visit. Where was that to?
Omaha.
I'm just going to go ahead and so why did you pick Omaha?
One, close to home.
Right?
I wanted my family to be able to, watch me grow in my last 4 years, maybe ever playing the sport again. And
Right.
traveled the country and, got me to where I am. So I would say one, for my family to be able to watch me. Two, it was my school colors. And when you're, in high school, it's the little things.
It is the little things. It is. It is.
And then the coaches did a really, really good job of recruiting me and making sure, like, hey, you're a small town kid. We can offer you this, 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 and all
Right.
these other schools, they can't do that for you. So they knew like what my values were when it came down to finding what school I wanted to go to. So they did a really good job. And then also with Omaha being the first school that I visited, their dorms, apartments, they're so nice. And I'm like, if I have to live here for the next 4 years, like, this is bougie. It really is. It's bougie. So, and then I just ended up, comparing every other school that I went
Yeah.
to Omaha, and it ended up being the perfect fit.
So what were some other schools that you visited?
So I went to Drake, which is in Iowa. I went to South Dakota State, Nebraska.
So how many outside of the Midwest? How many colleges recruited you outside the Midwest other than Providence?
I don't
Or is
know.
that asking too much to go
GCU,
back and think? What now?
GCU, Grand Canyon, they were really on me.
Okay.
But I committed super early to Omaha. Like, I want to say like September of my junior year, which is like
Wow.
super early.
Yeah.
So I didn't go on much like recruiting visits and stuff.
Hmm.
I hated it. I really did. It was a lot.
Why?
It was a lot. I was a freshman, sophomore going on
Oh,
visits, and and on top of I was playing in the summer too on my AAU team.
right.
So it can be very overwhelming.
It is a lot. So let's go ahead and staying on high school because as a senior, you won the state championship.
We did. We did win. First ever in school history too.
Have they won since then?
No.
Okay. What do you most remember about that game?
I'm not gonna lie, and this is me being 100%
Hey,
honest with you.
that's all I want you to be.
I don't remember a whole lot.
I would think most people don't.
I just blacked out and I
Mm.
just, whatever. I remember the whole game, it was very back and forth. Like they would score, we would score, they would score, we would
Right.
score. Nobody went on like a big run and nobody came back. I remember we were down one after a girl on the other team made a bucket and there was like what, 11 seconds on the clock or something like that. And
That
like
gives me anxiety.
give me the ball. Give me the ball. So full court layup. Went all the way, dribbled all the way down, made a layup, and then I think there was like 2 seconds left and they got up a three and it didn't go in and then we won. And I remember looking for my family afterwards in the stands, but the whole town was there. All 800 people in Weeping Water were in the stands,
Oh my God.
and it was insane. It was insane. Yeah.
And where was the championship game at?
It's at Lincoln at
Okay.
Nebraska where they play.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole town came.
Whole
Wow.
town. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So now let's fast forward to you've made your decision. You're going to Omaha, to the University of Nebraska in Omaha. And what was the biggest adjustment from high school ball and AAU ball to college? And it's a D1 school.
It's kind of tricky. I would say the biggest adjustment outside of basketball was leaving home. And I feel like every kid kind of goes through that.
Yeah.
First semester is really hard.
Yeah.
Um,
I did. I went through. Yeah, it was
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. Basketball wise, these girls were massive. I
Yeah.
was like
You're
probably I was the second shortest. I'm 5'9".
oh, you're 5'9". You're
Yeah.
much taller than me.
I think like it was these girls are a lot stronger than me. They're a lot faster than me. I wouldn't say that they were smarter than me because that's something that I hold near and dear to my chest, that my
Right.
basketball IQ is really up there.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it was definitely my first year as a freshman was all about learning and adjusting to the style of play, being with girls who are playing against girls. I was 18 and these
Right.
girls are like 22 and I'm like, okay, I got to learn. I got to take a
Right.
step back. I got to watch. I got to learn. I have to adjust. Um, yeah, freshman year was tough.
So what do you think got you through that year?
That's tough to say because it was tough. I broke my finger. I was in a cast. I had mono. I
Oh
had
my God.
COVID. It
Oh,
was
that's right. But that's the other thing. So you started college in what, 2020?
2021.
2021. So COVID was still kind of
Yep.
going on.
Yeah, you had to get tested every week that you were on campus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. I don't really know what got me through. I would have to say my family because there's no way
Mhm.
that I would be anywhere without them.
I would also think that just looking at you, I'm going to do the little psychiatric what
Good,
evaluation.
good.
I think that you have a mental toughness because yes, you have the support of others, but when it comes down to it, you have to get up every day and do it.
That's very true.
So
That's a good
mental,
observation.
yeah, mental
Thank you.
toughness. I would say definitely. And I was listening to you talking about how you had to learn, how do you had to adjust. I think a lot of people, not a lot, but many people it would have been hard for them to get through that year. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
okay? Especially because you were smaller than everybody else. You know, it takes a lot to persevere through that, and I just that's my outlook on that. So for whatever it's worth, but yeah. So you decided as a freshman, did you decide to start with communications then, or did you change your major?
No, I was actually going into college. I was like, I want to be a cop so bad. A cop for whatever reason. Because Omaha is like, I think
Do
they're
you
the
know any cops?
No, I don't. I was like, it seems cool. Well, I was obsessed with this TV show, Criminal Minds. All
Yes.
high school,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so I was like, I have to be a cop. And then reality kind of set in. But Omaha has like the nation's top criminal justice program.
Yeah.
So I was like, perfect. I'm gonna learn from the best, whatever. And then I was like, wait, that means I'm gonna have to carry a gun around and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to see a lot of hard things, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put myself through that.
Yeah.
But
I,
then, yeah, I couldn't do it.
so then why decide on communication?
So I was going to be business major, and I found out to be a business major, you have to take stats, and I did not want to take stats. So
Yeah.
then the next is like you can take basically all these business classes as a comm major and not take any of the math. I was like, perfect, put me in. So
Interesting.
I think it was the first semester of my sophomore year was when I declared my major.
And at that time, what were your thoughts about what you're going to do after graduation?
I had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Coaching.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to step away completely from
Yeah.
basketball. So probably coaching. I was going to go. Really wanted to be a teacher. I still do, but
Coaching is teaching.
exactly. But I was like, I really want to do PE. I could be a really cool PE teacher and then coach basketball.
So I will tell you this, you would have a better chance of getting a job because so I have a master's in education.
Mhm.
I'm certified to teach high school history and government.
Wow.
I spent 5 years going to school at night for my graduate degree, went overseas to do my student teaching,
Where'd you go in overseas?
Germany and England. I spent 6 weeks over there. Paid the money to do that, came back and graduated and went and interviewed, put my application in with the Memphis City School System. And they literally said, we don't have any job for you. Too bad you don't coach. Because most history teachers are coaches.
That's very true.
Now,
Crazy.
it is crazy, isn't it? So, what I'm saying is, you would easily be able to do that. You just have to get certified in PE. But yeah, you'd easily be able to do that. But coaching is teaching. And, the issue here that we're having because Memphis is a basketball town, in case you didn't know that, it is. The thing that we have is we have a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, there are coaches that never wanted to teach anything. They just wanted to coach.
Yeah.
And the issue is coming within the school system as, oh, you need to be a certified teacher and a coach because the schools are starting to want the coach to do something else besides just coach.
Yeah.
So you're set up for that. A little bit of career advice there just for you. So
You take what I
um,
get.
that's right. You didn't know this was like a working session, did you? Okay, so you get through your freshman and sophomore years. You've declared your major in communications. And at this time, have you thought anything about after college?
So this is like the transition period where I was like kind of starting to think future wise, like, what am I going
Mm,
to do after I graduate? What if basketball isn't in the picture for me? It's too
right.
late to change my major to education. So what am I going to do? So UNO has a super cool program where you can get your minor in real estate and then they'll pay for you to take your test.
Oh, that's cool.
So I have my minor in real estate. So that's always in the back of my
You're a jack of all trades, like
right,
literally.
right, yeah. So that's kind of if all else fails, real estate is always something that I can kind of fall back on.
Or
So
you can do it on the side.
yeah, it's very true.
You can do it and do the other things too. Okay, so now let's talk about every athlete I feel, or the ones that I've interviewed, have always had that moment where they've hit this wall, whether that's mental, physical, or emotional. What did you have a moment like that, and if so, how did you get through it?
I think that would go back to freshman year when I went
Mm,
through, the sickness, the
right.
um breaking my finger. That
Yeah.
was crazy.
Was
First,
it your shooting hand?
no, thank goodness.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
and then on top of that, like adjusting to college culture was a
Mm,
huge thing for me. Like, you come from a small town, everybody knows
yeah.
everybody. I'm going to
Yeah.
class. I have no idea who these people are. I can't
That's
be like,
right.
"Hey, how's your day going?" And then they're like, "Wait, why are you talking to me?" Like,
Yeah.
it was a huge culture shock for me my first, semester, maybe first 2 semesters. Um, I think that how I got over that was my teammates. Like,
Hmm.
I knew them, and if I ever needed anything, I could, "Hey, you wanna go get"
Right.
or whatever. I think I surrounded myself with really good human beings, and that
Mhm.
kinda helped me grow as a person as well. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say.
You bring up a good point. It's the people that you have around you. And I think times we get people around us, and I've had this too. I get people around me that are not as supportive or are jealous or have their own issues. And for athletes, especially as you progress in the ladder, as you go and grow in your career, your circle gets smaller, and you have to really see who really is there for you to
Right,
support you and to give you a positive circle of
right.
support.
I
Uh,
think that was when like, as you're saying, like, climbing the ladder, kind of
mhm,
like as and your circle gets smaller. I
mhm.
feel that right now. I'm,
Yeah.
21 years old, and I'm kinda going into that 5th quarter, maybe. We'll kinda
Right.
see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I definitely feel that, and I think that if you get too comfortable with the people that you're around and that's just supporting, but not really because they're in your shoes, but they're not. They want
Right.
to see you succeed, but it's like, do they really? So that's something that I have gone through over the
Mhm.
past 4 years. It's yes, you're in my same position, we're on the same team, but do you really want to see me succeed? I want to see you
Right.
succeed. Do you want to see me succeed? So that's something that I feel like, especially as the older I get and the more I mature and the more I
Mhm.
see, that that circle needs to keep getting smaller and smaller and
It
smaller.
does.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's not just about your teammates. It's about all the other people that are coming around you because I think as you grow in status, and if you do go and play pro, you're going to have more people and because I know a lot of people that have played pro ball, men and women. And there comes a point when, they look around them and themselves and they're like, why are you here? What is it you want from me?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that as you get more elite, you have to look at people and go, what is it you truly want?
Yeah.
And it's sad. It really is that you have to protect yourself like that, but it's also true.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very.
so yeah, definitely that. So now I want to talk about, you are really visible. You've played all 4 years at Omaha. Have you started all 4 years?
I started a little bit my freshman year.
Right,
It was kind of me and another girl. We were always going
right.
head. But I've started since my sophomore year.
So you're in D1 and you're getting more visibility, right? How
Yep.
do you balance that pressure of maintaining that visibility while staying true to yourself?
That's a great question. That was beautifully worded as well. Okay. I would say you have to, going back to the circle, you have to
Right.
be surrounded by people who don't let your head get too big.
Yeah,
Because I had, a great year. Let's say I had a great year my sophomore year, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, come on, bring it at me. And I need somebody who's going to stay around me and be like, hey, cool it. You're not as good
right.
as you think you are. You have so much more room for growth. So I think, surrounding yourself with people who keep you level-headed, and it's like, hey, you might need
Mhm.
to pop that balloon that your head's getting too big. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, yeah, that's what I would say. You got to keep good people around you.
You do. I had a guy on here. He went to, I can't remember, University of Arkansas or Arkansas State. Had fantastic year, freshman and sophomore year, and his head got too big. And he actually admitted it. He's like, I let my ego get to me, and I didn't put as much effort into my training, my career, and he
Yep.
said it showed, and
Yep.
it cost him.
Mhm.
You know, um, so yes, it's really important, to have that good support system around you and to be able to put yourself in perspective of I've still got so much more I need to achieve or I want to achieve and,
I
and
would
not settle for what you have right now.
Right, and I would say it really is a mindset thing too. Like if you have the mindset of, "Oh, I'm the best player on the team, everybody's posting about me, everybody's
Yeah,
talking about me." Like you have to have the mindset of you have to stay hungry. You have to,
right.
want more. You might have everything that you've ever thought you could have, but you have to keep wanting more, and that's how you can kinda keep yourself
Mm.
level,
You
grounded.
know, you brought up one good point there talking about social media. So
Mhm.
you've grown up in the social media era.
I have,
You
yes.
have. And NIL. So your college career was basically most of it was in the NIL era. So let's talk about social media. How much pressure did you feel as a female athlete to show up on social media on a regular basis?
Um I would say not a lot of pressure, just solely based on the fact that Omaha isn't, a very predominant
Right.
school.
Right.
Like mid-major, and then if you look at Lincoln, who is Big Ten, like there's a huge
Right.
difference in
Right.
social media, campaigning, marketing, whatever.
Right.
So I would say now as a female athlete, I
Mhm.
know a lot of people, girls at Nebraska, who do feel that pressure to put out for their fans of,
Right.
"Hey, this is what I did. This is what I'm promoting," like the influencer stuff.
Right.
At Omaha, not that much big of a
Right.
deal just because the fan base is
Right.
a lot
Did you have a lot of NIL opportunities at Omaha?
Yes and no. It was basically kind of self-taught because it was so new too.
Right.
Um, as I got as I climbed the ladder over the last 4 years, I did get a lot more this past year.
Mm.
Shout out to Control. They used to be a thing, but that was my first ever NIL deal. It was a cute little coffee shop and a cereal bar.
Well, that's in Omaha.
Yeah. It's not a thing anymore, but
So how did you get that deal? Did you go out and approach them or did they approach you?
so I saw one of their videos on TikTok
Hmm.
and I was like, "Hey, this is super cool. Have you guys ever done an NIL?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we do them with Lincoln men's basketball players at our other store or whatever, different company. But we would love to, work something out with you if you want to come in and we can chit chat." And I'm like, "Absolutely." So every time I would go in, I'd post them on my Instagram story and they'd give me a free coffee.
Okay, so everybody out there, if you're a young athlete, which I hope there's a lot of young athletes out there, I mean, it's not about and this again goes into any job opportunity, whether it's NIL, sports, whatever. You have to look for those opportunities and put yourself out there.
Say that last part again.
You have to put yourself out
Yourself out
there.
there.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Because a lot, what we found in Memphis is we struggled the past couple of years. FedEx, because this is where it's based, FedEx made a huge contribution this year for an NIL commitment to Memphis for the next 5 years. But what we have found, because I'm vice president of the booster club for the men's basketball team at Memphis. So and we don't do NIL. We have collectives that do that, but we had to get educated on it. And what we have determined is a lot of the smaller companies don't really know what to do. They don't know, they hear NIL and they're like, "Oh, that pays a player," but they don't necessarily know how they can benefit from it.
Right.
Or the owners don't have the time to think about how they can benefit with it. And I listened to this great podcast and I wish I could remember the name of it. It was like a series and it went through the whole NIL movement, not just when NIL started, but like all the athletes that came before them that started with all the lawsuits and everything that kind of built up to NIL actually happening. And there was some great stories in there about the athletes that went out. They weren't the best athletes. They didn't have the biggest followings, but they went out and figured out how they could make money and approached local businesses. And it just goes back into know your value, figure out what you have to offer, and go in there, whether it's a regular job, whether it's NIL, whether it's being on another team. Everybody's going to the transfer portal now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's like this disco ball club, whatever the transfer portal. Anyway, okay. As you progress through your junior and senior years, what was your process then as to, you know, what you're going to do next?
Um, I think that I really wanted to step into during basketball season, I really wanted to step into the role of being that leader on the team.
Mm.
And I wanted my game to elevate to where there was really no doubt that I was the leader on the floor. And I
Now, I want to ask this though. Why in your head did you think I want to be the leader?
why?
Hmm.
I don't know. It just something was calling my name saying, "Hey, you need to grab the team by the horns and take them where you want to go." That was like a little Mavericks joke.
It
Yeah.
was a
But
little wild, wild west. So you compared stepping up to be the leader, but you also made a really good point there. You needed to increase your skills,
yep.
so there was no question as to whether or not you could be the leader. So let me ask you this. If you're talking to any high school girls and high school boys, what would you tell them? What tips would you give to them to to figure out if they are ready to become a leader on the floor
Well,
or how to get into that position to be that?
I would say the number one thing going into my junior and my senior year was a lot of reflection.
Hmm.
Thinking about what's important to me. What is going to help
Right.
me be myself, but also help people along the way and make sure they follow my lead. Um, I don't know if there's any advice that I could give besides stay true to who you are and try to
Right.
make yourself better, because once you make yourself better, everyone else around you is going to want to follow you and be as good as you. And that's how it's always been.
It is. And I want have anybody has watched the documentary about the dream team. I think it was the second one where Kobe, he made the team better not by saying anything to them. He was getting up and going to work out at like
In the
5,
morning,
yeah, and
which is
all the other team members were coming in and they would get on the elevator. They were going to go up and he's like going to work out.
yeah.
He never said anything and they started feeling guilty.
Yeah. You got to lead by example. You have
That's
to do
right.
like if the coaches ask you, if you're out there and your coaches are like, "Okay, hey, we need you to shoot for 30 minutes after practice every day." Well, why not go 45? Why not go an hour? You're only going to get that much better. What you put into whatever you're doing, a job, basketball,
Mhm.
anything, that's what you're going to get out. And I think that was another kind of good realization for me
Yeah.
going into, my last 2 years.
I know what I was going to talk to you about, the social media thing. So, and it plays into what you just said. What I hear from some people that I know around the country when it comes to high school athletes right now, and maybe college too. And I don't know if it's girls as much as it is boys. They play for social media likes. Doesn't matter if they win the game, just as long as they've got something to post.
Yeah. That
And
Mhm.
that I think that I don't know if it's true, but I think that that also kind of plays into, not for everybody, not for all athletes, but I think it also plays into that mentality of they don't necessarily want to go and take that extra effort to be better.
I have a lot of thoughts on that because I have played with people who do have that mentality, who their, if you will, their why they
Mhm.
get up every day, why they do what they do is for social media. And
Right,
for me, that's really, really hard because I've never, like, I could delete my Instagram, I could delete all my social media and still be the exact same person.
right,
What I post on social media is raw and it's exactly what I'm doing. It's all basketball. It's all basketball.
right.
So that stuff's really hard for me because it's the society that these kids are going to grow
Yeah.
up playing.
Instant gratification. That's
Correct.
what they're looking for.
Yeah. And when I was growing up as a kid, we didn't have that. My coach ripped
Yeah.
my behind, and then I was lucky if he was gonna say, "Hey, you played good today." But that was like that mental toughness going back to what you're talking about. Like
Mhm.
it's I really struggle with that piece of the instant gratification, but then it's also if these kids are getting gratification through social media, where's that mental toughness gonna come into play?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. And the other question around here, because the Memphis men's team did not have a good year last year. And I have to be careful how I say this. And from a spectator's point of view, especially with NIL these days, it seemed apparent that there were players, not just at Memphis, but elsewhere, that had no desire to go to the NBA. They were being paid well, and that was their motivation. But their motivation wasn't to go out and win games, it was just to get paid. And
Yeah.
you could see it in how they played. And there's been a lot of talk lately about, as great as NIL is, what pushes athletes in college to want to go to the next level if they're probably making more now than they
Then
ever would?
yeah.
Because the majority of them are never going to get drafted. They
Right.
may play pro ball overseas, and that would be it. And like, there are a lot of college basketball players that are making millions of dollars
Millions of dollars as a
for
what,
NI as
20-year-old?
yeah, in NIL. So what's their motivation then to go and do anything else? What's their motivation to show up every day and do more?
Right, but then on the flip side of that, there are people who are like, "Okay,
Mhm.
I'm getting all this money through NIL. I need to be able to prove them right and go
Right.
and produce and put a good product on the floor." One of my friends, I would say, he played at Omaha last year, and he now is at Michigan State, and
Okay.
he is probably making, good
Okay.
money, but he also wasn't the kid that wasn't gonna go to the gym every single day. and he's having a great year at Michigan State. They just won the, what are they? Big 12, Big 10?
I don't know. I
They're,
don't follow.
they won their conference. So, I mean, shout out Frankie. He's having a great year.
It's funny. Dwayne Wade was on the Today Show. He was a co-host all this week on the fourth hour, and he was all excited because he's in New York doing the show. Okay, and Marquette, which is I guess where he went to school,
Yep.
they're playing, and so the Today Show was going to let him off early so he could go to the game. And so Jenna Bush, she was like, "Well, is Texas in it?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't follow anybody else but Marquette." Like nobody else exists to me. And that's kind of like I am. Like I know who everybody is, but like I don't like follow like if they win or not, only if
Yeah.
it
I
concerns
don't I don't really follow anybody. Like I know like if I know somebody on the team, I'll follow
yeah,
him and
yeah,
then that's about it. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that is a tricky combination about the NIL. I love to see that these players, because there's so many players that are not going to go to the league, especially the women. There's less opportunity, right? And this gives them a chance to make money for their families, to put money away for them, and to do that. So it is kind of a catch-22, and I think that because there are crazy numbers right now, players expecting that don't even like career like they're well, I can't even think. They don't play $1 million worth. Like they don't play in that level, in my opinion. And I just threw $1 million out there. And because there's so
So
many,
I mean that's a fair number. I mean
yeah,
there is millions and millions and millions of
yeah,
dollars that are thrown around to athletes for what? To sit the bench?
exactly. Exactly. And I just read UNL, not UNLV. Yeah, University of Nevada at Las Vegas. So their coach, the school owes him $31 million and they don't have the money to pay him. And I want to say there was a thing about the football team and some NIL issues, and one of the players refused to play last fall and said they weren't getting paid their NIL money. And so there's a lot of issues about that. And Alabama obviously is the one that for football is the one that makes crazy money. And you're seeing all these, you've seen like two or three high profile coaches that have resigned in the middle of the season because they're tired of dealing with the NIL issue. I know we sidetracked, but I think it's a good conversation because you're in college right now and you've kind of played in it. Um, so now um, let's talk about women's basketball right now. So all last year, Caitlin Clark, um, the whole atmosphere around her and just everybody else playing in college women's sports, right? But it's having a moment right now and it's continuing to build. And how do you feel as a female basketball player? How do you feel about where this because you obviously don't have a crystal ball or anything, but how do you feel about do you experience that yourself, or is it something that you're on the periphery that see and it's not really affecting you?
I would say it does definitely kind of affect all female athletes in a
Mhm.
way.
Right.
Um, so I have talked to Caitlin a few times in my life before she was who she is.
Right. Have you told my brother that? Because he's like crazy about her.
I have not, no.
You
Well,
should, because he like wants your autograph. Okay.
she played at All Iowa Attack, and I always played against her.
Right.
Uh,
Really?
yeah, she cooked me. But anyway, um, going back, we can go kind of tie this into NIL. So
Okay.
my junior year, there was an NIL opportunity with a company to make jerseys
Mm-hmm.
for somebody on the men's team. And I'm like, well, why do, why don't we have I have more Instagram followers if that's what because that's usually what
Yeah,
it is.
it
Like
is.
what
It's
you do is
exactly what
they'll
it is.
promote their
That's
stuff.
right.
I have more Instagram followers than him. Well, why can't I get it? So I had to go and I went to the company and I said, "Hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. Can you give it to me? If not, I'm gonna go somewhere else." And they're like, "Yeah, we got it. We'll do it for you." So I feel
Okay.
like
Good for you.
as a female athlete, yes, we are climbing the ladder, going back to your lingo. We're
Mhm.
climbing the ladder, we're taking steps in the right direction. You can look at like the viewership of the
Yeah.
WNBA now. Like they had to move how many games last season for the Fever to play
Mhm.
and have a big enough arena. That is so cool to see.
Exactly.
Um, but we're still, as a female, we're still trying to get that equality with the on the men's side.
Mhm.
We know the viewership is there. We know the support is there. We just got to keep fighting. Just
And,
gotta
you know,
keep.
I think your example, their story that you just told kind of sums it up. These companies look at the men and offer it to them, but the women have to go out and get it.
Yeah.
They have to recognize the opportunity and then do something about it.
And it's always been that way. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it'll ever change.
I remember, gosh, 3, 4 years ago, wasn't very long ago, the NCAA March Madness, one of the places that they were playing,
Yep, I know
didn't
exactly what
didn't
you're
have a workout
saying.
facility
Yeah,
for them.
yeah.
That's crazy.
If you guys
That
wanna see if they wanna see the video, look up Sedona Prince March Madness video, and it will explain everything. It was on, like, Good Morning America.
Yeah, it made like, it was everywhere.
Yeah,
And that's just crazy. Um, okay, so we digress again, but that's okay. I think these are good conversations because I
yeah,
think, you know, it's interesting to have your perspective, and obviously your perspective is just one place, but a lot of the things that you've said, I think really are good tips and good explanations for across the board. So let's talk about the conversation. Um, you and your teammates and other people, do they talk more about women's sports now as opposed to several years ago? Do you forget your teammates? Do you hear people in general around you talking more about women's sports?
oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. 1,000%. I would come back, to Weeping Water and somebody saying, "Oh, did you see the Nebraska whoever game and so and so at this many points?" I'm like, "Okay." Or they'd be like, "Did you see what Caitlin Clark did?" Or, what? And that's super cool to see just the atmosphere around women's sports.
Yeah.
What was that? The Netflix documentary, um, of Sha'Carri Richardson, I'm pretty sure is her name.
Yes, the track star. I can't remember. I know which one you're talking about. I haven't watched that yet.
I watched the first 2 episodes, and you should watch it. It's
Okay.
really, really good.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes after when this goes live. Okay, so the other thing is, so imagine a young girl is sitting in the stands and she's watching you play, dreaming of doing what you're doing one day. What's one thing that you would want to say to her or tell her or want her to know?
I would say, and I've been asked this question before, and I feel like every time my answer is different
That's
depending
okay. That's
on
okay.
what I'm doing, but one thing that I was always told is just keep at it. Just keep at it.
Mm,
Just keep at it. Just keep at it. Even to today, even when I was a kid, just keep at
right.
it. Keep at it. There's going to be so many people who are going to tell you that you're not good enough or your dreams are crazy or whatever. Just keep at it. Keep at it. Stick to what you know and trust your work ethic and make it happen.
I think that's really good advice. And I think that's advice for anybody doing anything. You know, I see so many people that, and I hear from people that they try to quantify what's going to happen next so that they can not do it,
Yeah.
you know, and or people, they think if they don't get an immediate response, then they need to stop, or they're so busy trying to prepare to start that they never start. Like there's so many things. And I think that, you know, us as humans, we just need to put those blinders on and just do the work.
Have
Figure
that
out,
vision.
yeah, tunnel vision. Exactly. Just keep doing the work and don't look around because I guarantee you those people aren't looking around. You
Mm-mm.
know, Kobe wasn't looking around.
Kobe was
Caitlin,
not looking at anybody but the
that's
man
right.
in the mirror.
That's right. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Okay, so when you think about your entire basketball journey, from that little girl in Weeping Water, Nebraska, I love saying that, picking up that ball for the first time to who you are today, what are you most proud of? If you can even answer that, what are you most proud of?
Oh man. I probably I'm proud of the fact that out of everything that happened since I've been in 3rd grade,
Yeah.
that I stuck with it and I got it done. Like, I'm the first in my family to graduate from a 4-year college. Hopefully, I'm graduating in May.
Yes.
But that I was the first D1 athlete to ever come out of Weeping Water. Like, there's so many things that I did, but I didn't do it by myself, if that makes sense. Like, yes, I stepped on the court, but I had so many people who were behind me in my circle.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if there's one thing that I could say I'm most proud of. Probably going Division 1 because that is something that only 1% of the population gets to.
Right.
So,
That's exactly right. So let's talk really quickly about what's next for you. Obviously, graduation in May, right?
yep.
And we kind of teased. We don't know if you're going to start your fifth quarter or not. Okay. Right as of right now, what are your plans, or what are you thinking about?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Oh,
This is
is this breaking news?
breaking
Oh
news.
my God, I'm so
I
excited.
haven't really talked to anybody but my family about it. So
Okay.
why not, let
Yeah.
everybody know.
This
So,
will come out next Wednesday, by the way. Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
So, the NCAA is voting in May to see
Hmm.
if they're going to give everybody a 5th year.
Hmm.
So if I get a 5th year, I'll take my 5th year. I'll play one more year. Otherwise, I will be going professional overseas. I
Yes. Okay.
know.
Um, Question for you. What do you think a fifth year playing college basketball will give you?
See, I've been asked that question and I don't know what my answer is. I think I've made my mark at Omaha. I know I have. Like
Right.
I'm in the book
Sure.
forever. I mean my jersey's not retired or anything, but I'm a small town kid from Nebraska.
Right.
Um, I feel like if I decide to stay at Omaha for my 5th year, I could really capitalize on everything I did this past year.
Hmm.
I could hopefully we could take, Omaha to the March Madness. It's never been done before in school history.
Right.
So to have that chance to do it one more time would be amazing. And then the next question is, what if I don't come back to Omaha? Then do I go to a bigger school and see what it's like to play with the top people in the country? So
Yeah.
there's some, a lot of reflection and a lot of what's going to be best for me coming up in the next couple months. But as of right now, my plan is to capitalize on what I did last year at Omaha and take my 5th year if I get it.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thank
And life changes. It can change tomorrow. You know, things happen all the time, and you just have, as we talked about, look for those opportunities where they are. Okay, so a couple of more questions, and then we'll be closing this down. If you could go back and talk to your 9-year-old self, 9-year-old Grace, what would you say to her?
That's tough. These are like very mentally stimulating questions.
I don't like those normal, like, I want it to be a conversation. And actually, the very first episode we had, it was a guy, William Bedford. He played for Memphis in the late 80s, and he got drafted, played in the NBA, won a championship with the Detroit Pistons, had a lot of issues with drugs, went to prison. And I actually, as a side thought at the very end, asked him that question. And he told me he didn't think he had a value. And I was like, that hurt to hear somebody say that. And so I just started, I thought that would be a really good question to ask people at the very end. So what do you think your value is to others today?
My
Oh,
vow.
whoa. No. I didn't let you answer the 9-year-old
Okay,
self.
9-year-old self, I would tell her to stay strong. That's what I would say. I would say
Okay.
there was a lot of people who didn't want to see me succeed, and I would say I did succeed. So just be strong and stick to what you know.
Okay. Now, the question I was talking about is
Value.
what do you see as your value today? Or what do you see as your value to others today?
One thing that I take pride in is being kind to people and trying to make people smile. So I would say my value today for others is to just encourage positivity and, make sure that people are doing okay because you never know what people are going through.
That's very true. And that's great advice. And look, we've had an awesome conversation.
There we go.
Any last thoughts or anything out there? I do want to ask one thing because I've asked this before in other interviews. Was there one thing that you could have had in high school or college that would have made you a better player or made you tougher or something? Because I feel like as we grow up, we don't necessarily get everything that we need in order to succeed. And it's only looking back that we can see, oh, you know, if I'd had this more, that would have helped me get through whatever happened to me.
I don't think so. I think that I am the way I am today because of everything that I went through, high school, college, whatever. Um, I haven't really thought about it like that before. People could say like, "Oh, I wish I had a better, fan base or support
Right.
system."
Right.
But I feel like ever since I was a kid, like I've had a pretty good head on my shoulders about, I'm rocking with who and what I got, and I'm gonna make it work the best way that I can.
I think that's awesome. I do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. Okay, thank you all for listening, especially if you've made it all the way to the end of the show. Grace, thank you so much for being on the show today. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Now, another reminder to subscribe to the show wherever you listen or watch. My mantra is like, share, and review. Follow us on social media at 5THQRT Podcast. Until next time, remember change is our ally and it paves the way for greatness. Stay inspired. Have a great rest of the week.